Let's start with an overview of the platinum market, just so we can put this in perspective. For 2009, the estimates are roughly about 6.8 million ounces of platinum were produced, which roughly about 3.1 were for auto catalysts. Okay, so, and then there was quite a big jump in jewelry, 1.8 million ounces. Okay, now this is at basically at 2005 levels. Why? Because the price basically went from $2,200 an ounce at the beginning of 2008 all the way down to below 800 at the end of 2008, a phenomenon that much of the commodities complex experienced. Okay, so that's platinum, and there was a slight surplus in the market, I think 120,000 ounces. Okay, let's get on to palladium, where automotive usage is much bigger. There's 7.8 million ounces of palladium produced per annum, of which roughly 4.4 million are to automotives. And palladium, of course, you must remember, diesel, petrol, just roughly. And then industrial usages here is comfortably around, it's around about 2 million ounces. As you can see, the jewelry element in terms of the overall platinum market is relatively small. It's their industrial usage, and it's their usage in auto catalytic converters, the stuff that cleans your exhausts as the stuff that cleans your exhaust fumes. Right, let's get straight into the numbers part. Sales of 11.1 billion rand, which is a fall of over 30% when compared to obviously the same corresponding period for their first half to December 2009. Now it's a much bigger fall off in earnings per share, 212 cents from comfortably above 10 bucks or so. Dividend maintained, and that tells me something, because in a time where all the other majors from Amplats, Lonman, Aquarius were actually raising money, Impala actually had this cash buffer and were actually accused of being a little bit lazy with their capital. It's in part luck, in part good management, and that all goes down to skill. And it's the part that I say luck, it's because they sold a stake in Aquarius, so had a big cash windfall that they were able to keep. And Dave Brown, the chief, actually said they've maintained their dividends. So the R1.20 is exactly as you got at the same time last year, and that's in part due to the fact that they're confident with cash flows going ahead. So notwithstanding the initial face value ugliness look of the numbers, the share price has actually traded slightly up, and it's been unchanged really. What are the risks that remain there for Impala Platinum? Well, obviously there's the key one is substitution. Obviously as the price of the metal you sell becomes too high, people look for alternative methods. Now for the time being I don't see the combustion engine going away, and that's probably for the next 2 to 3 decades. The other thing is costs, rising costs in the form of electricity costs, labour costs, and obviously as the product becomes deeper to mine, it becomes a more costly exercise, but obviously underpinned by a higher product price, they should be helped out. In Zimbabwe, it's not quite clear, even though last week and the previous week there were rumblings about the indigenization law in Zimbabwe, where ownership of companies over $500,000 worth of turnover would be 51% owned by indigenous Zimbabweans. It's not quite clear what's going to transpire there yet. Now the future, ironically, is Zimplats, because they're looking to up that specific operation to 1 million ounces per annum operation to kind of rival their big Impala operation. So obviously these two are quite key. Over the next 4 years or so, looking to up production around about 25%. So that's a very good, and most importantly, and the reason why we like this stock, is there's going to be increased environmental controls. Over the last 15 years, not that it was mandatory to have a catalytic converter underneath your motor vehicle, but now the gap is narrowed, where it was kind of 75% in 1995, almost 100% of new motor vehicles that have to meet these emissions controls globally. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Shanghai or London or New York or Paris or Joburg, We're all moving to a world where there are more environmental heightened concerns, and that is why we like the stock. So would you be buying the stock at around about 190 bucks? Yeah, I think very definitely yes, because it's the future that's more important. So the earnings, although they look ropey at face value, it's the future, and it's the future which looks like we're going to see motor vehicles sales in China this year, maybe even top 16 million. India, if it was in the Eurozone, would be second only to Germany. So these are, and it goes a little bit further than that too. It's down to everything from leaf blowers to locomotive engines. So as an environmental story, we like it a lot.